can kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Are you kidding? Why the hell should I wait for you?
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
If you're having nightmares, then welcome to the club. My name's Subaru Natsuki, and I am the Knight of Amelia.
Right now, all I can give you is just death.
It wasn't for you in particular.
You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze.
Fuck that monkey!
Okay, apparently I need to add myself to the stage. That's a thing. Well, welcome back to episode 43 of this insanity, and I appreciate everyone who checks these out. So, on tonight's docket, we're going to be talking a little bit of the same old as far as pop culture goes, the dispute around representation and all that. But it's going to be more than just that. It's kind of going into some of the terminology that's being used in anime and why those are distinct from certain other things. And this is particularly to do with Otokonoko and stuff like that. And how these things can go too far, like the case of Thomas Lockley and Yasuke, where now the entire story is under investigation by Nihon University because it's potentially all a sham. Other than that, there is also the growing dispute between Shueisha and one of Toriyama's disciples over who gets to control the rights to Dragon Ball. There's that. There are memes. There's some stuff to talk about with other pop culture stuff that overlaps with anime. And there's memes and actual anime discussion. Memes and actual anime discussion. So, just to get the wholesome fun stuff, we're gonna start with dogs. We're gonna start with dogs meeting delivery men. I love this account, Dogs Out of Context. It's a great way to feel like Twitter is not toxic. What a good boy. 10 out of 10 would pet. Same with this guy. 10 out of 10 would pet.
He's happy to meet you.
Hey, Noah, how you doing, Noah? How you doing, Noah? Noah, you want a treat?
Invite you.
Hey,
Noah,
Noah.
sit, Noah.
Sit.
Sit.
Hey, Noah.
Noah, come. You want a treat? Sit down.
What's over
Noah. Oh, look at you, Noah. You going for a ride?
I never loved one
Huh?
Yeah. Who's a good boy?
The world truly does not deserve dogs. Let's be honest. Dogs are too good for this planet, especially with all the fucking shit we get up to. They're too friendly, they're too nice, they're too pettable. But I wanted to start this thing off with something wholesome and have some fun with it. So we're going to move into tier list with more anime to watch. So this week, or this was last week's rating. So these are all the things that I think are absolutely fantastic that you must watch up at the top. Very good, or things that are, definitely worth a shot. Entertaining are things that I personally find enjoyable, but might not be for everyone. Just okay are things I think are genuinely mid. And bad is all the stuff that I have decided to just straight up drop. So this week, I've watched a couple more. Hail Jam, how you doing? Starting with Love is Indivisible by Twins. So this one is basically about uh this guy who is childhood friends with twins, and they both have a crush on him, and one has much more in common with the guy than the other. Um let's see here. Sorry, I'm blanking here for a second. The other is just like has a really big crush on him too. Thinks he's like the nicest guy in the world and all that. So the one who doesn't have much in common with him is the first to ask him out. And they date for like 6 months or something. Then she breaks up because she doesn't want to be mean to her sister. And then forces the guy basically to ask her sister out. In the first 2 episodes is what I've watched, and right now I'll say it's very good. It's very interestingly written. It's got a lot of pop culture references that aren't like watered down. Like there's a lot of talk of like Lord of the Rings, of Star Trek, of all that stuff, like the classic kind of pop culture. Very nerdy. I do like that. I do like the writing. It's just my big problem with it is that it can be a little like dramatic. I feel like it's more shojo than the normal things I would want to watch. It focuses heavily on like emotion and drama rather than anything else. And that's not particularly my thing, but I do really appreciate the writing for it. So I put it in very good for this season. Next, Bye Bye Earth. Now, this is actually a more battle anime. And, sorry, it's lagging on me here. I'll just leave that there for now, so it's not lagging around. So basically, this is the story of like a world occupied by demi-humans, pretty much. Everyone is like a cat person, like a cat girl or a dog man or whatever, and there's only one human, which is the main character, and she is absolutely alone in the world. And everyone calls her like featureless. They think she's weird, and her whole desire is to find other people like herself. So she's going to become a nomad, which puts a curse upon her that can be debilitating. I'm going full Joe Biden tonight. Like her master, who is also a nomad, cannot use his powers for anything other than teaching. That's his curse. So she sets out on her own journey. Also, they have like magic swords that are imbued with like specific spells. It's pretty cool, and like they don't look like swords at first, but when they activate their powers, they get super sharp. And depending on your level of affinity for it, it gets sharper and sharper. But that said, I do think it goes in very good. I really liked it, the world that it's setting up, the kind of storytelling it's doing, the power system, all of that stuff. Very good, very good. I do very good, very good. I approve. It is something that I do appreciate. Next, I did Too Many Losing Heroines. And Too Many Losing Heroines is brilliant. The basic premise of Too Many Losing Heroines is that you have this guy who's not really interested in romance, and he watches this chick right here on the front or on the title here, get basically dumped by her childhood friend that she was in love with, in favor of someone else. And it's very comedic. It's very well written. Um, I think I absolutely do love this series. Like it is movie quality stuff. So I'm gonna put it up in must watch, honestly, because it is an absolute banger this season. The intro and outro are great. The comedy is amazing. The animation is superb. Everything about it is amazing. It's a 10 out of 10. It is an absolute 10 out of 10. And then we have Failure Frame. Failure Frame is a bit interesting. Oh, I actually forgot one. Shit. Because I did not like this manga. And it was just kind of okay to me, honestly. It's isekai, it's revenge, it's got a lot of tropes, okay? And pretty much the idea is that a whole class of people, of kids from high school, get isekai'd, and most of them are actually fucking awful human beings, except for like a handful of them. Namely the main character, um, who is given the weakest rank, the weakest powers, and basically told that he's better off dead. So the goddess who summoned them sends him to basically what is the disposal bin for people, and leaves him to die. But of course, he survives, and now he's on his revenge quest. The issue is his powers are literally only to afflict status effects, like poison. But he also has paralysis and sleep, and it turns out that it's guaranteed to afflict anyone he uses them on because of his skill. So he's actually got a pretty broken skill because he can paralyze people and then poison them and just let them die. But the animation for this one is shit. And honestly, if I had to describe the writing, I would say that it is an inferior version of So I'm a Spider, So What? So it's gonna go in entertaining because honestly, as bad as the animation is, like you can see all the 3D assets and everything where they're cutting corners and all that. It isn't to the point where I would want to drop it just because of animation. And the revenge story is kind of satisfying, although I wish they spent more time on the dungeon crawl because it feels like they rushed through that and overpowered the main character way too quickly. That was one of the things I did like about So I'm a Spider and why I compare it to that is because the dungeon crawl is like the first 4 books of the series. It is the first 4 light novels. And that makes it absolutely thorough on everything it does. It does a lot of setup, it does a lot of like detailed explanation of what's going on, and it does set up the game world mechanic much better than what this does. This again feels like a cheap copy of that. And then we have one of the big ones of the season, The Elusive Samurai. Now, The Elusive Samurai is, I think, a pseudo historically accurate story. Like it's a manga, like serialization of like real historical characters, from what I understand. I could be wrong on that, so feel free to correct me. But to my knowledge, this is basically like the story of like a revolutionary period in Japanese history turned into like a over-the-top battle manga. And the idea is that this kid, the main character, he is the heir to the shogunate, the rightful heir to the shogunate. But he is not a warrior. He doesn't have any of like the heroic tropes at all. Really, his good thing is he can dodge and evade people very well, but he can't deliver finishing blows. He's not a good fighter. So this Shinto priest decides to take him in and help him reclaim his place as leader of Japan, because apparently this priest can see the future. So it's cool. I actually do like it. It is very, very weird with its animation. Sometimes it's really fucking good, and sometimes it's using like real life assets. But I do absolutely think it is a must watch because it is very entertaining. I think this one is absolutely fantastic. And then we have, ooh, yeah, this one. How to Become Ordinary. So, How to Become Ordinary is a story of two like brand new high school kids, their first years, and they're kind of oddballs trying to pretend like they're normal people. And this is by the if I'm not mistaken, this is by the creator of Hyoka, which, if you're not familiar with, brilliant like everyday detective fiction. I am like really slurring my words. Maybe I shouldn't have had so much alcohol to start this off, right? As I take another drink. Ugh. But yeah, um, really good detective fiction takes like everyday, like ordinary mysteries and turns them into like these big puzzles. Um, sorry, just dealing with some messages there. It turns them into like these big puzzles that are like brain teasers and stuff like that. It's very fun. I love this kind of stuff. It's why I love Hyoka. Um, very thought-provoking stuff. Like episode 2, the big mystery for episode 2 is uh how do you make 3 cups of perfect hot cocoa while only getting a spoon dirty, or while only getting a spoon and 3 cups dirty without washing anything. So basically it's running through stuff like that and finding out what the different scenarios are. But honestly, I really do think that I can't say it's a must watch because it is much more niche. However, I do think it is very, very good. It is like right there. It is one of those things that I absolutely think deserves more attention. And there's one more that I actually gotta go get. Um, there we go. Images. Um, we'll save this image. And then we will go back over to my tier list and we will get ourselves is this it? No. That was not it. Shit. Let me try and fix my fuck up here. All right, there we go. We'll download that. We'll go over here. We will choose files. Oh, I guess that close that out and reopen it maybe. Will that do it? Downloads. Oops. Choose file. It's not showing up. Why are you doing this to me? Okay, well, it's telling me that a virus was detected. Let's see if I can. Okay. That did it. So both of those images were blocked. Okay. And we will open that. Okay, there we go. That's what I've been looking for. Why does nobody remember me in this world? Sorry about that. I forgot one. And basically the premise is that there was a 5-way war between like humanity and all the other races. Who them all away. Because of one hero who was able to defeat all others. But suddenly that hero is erased from history, and it resets the world, and humanity loses the war and all that stuff. And the main character is one of the few things that is removed from the world. Honestly, entertaining enough. Kind of tropey. It's good. It's good stuff, but I don't know. It's just, eh. I don't know if I can say it's like top tier. I don't. So now we move into the stuff that I've already watched, and we do a little bit of rearranging. Honestly, I think the only things that will change out of this is this one is just going to go. Well, I wish I could add a drops tier in here. Maybe I'll have to do that later. I'll have to figure that out. But I'm going to drop this one, the Raising Kids in Another World, and Quality Assurance in Another World, because honestly, they just aren't doing it for me. They had like interesting things going for them, but they aren't the most amazing. Plus Size Elf remains at the bottom because it's trash, and I haven't watched much else other than that. I can't really readjust all of these. So that said, I think that pretty much concludes the tier list for the night. It concludes everything that is going to that I have watched. Which there is plenty of good stuff out this season. But I'm mostly looking forward to next season, which is going to have Shangri-La Frontier, ReZero Season 3, and Don to Don. You kidding me? Stacking everything. That's really bright. See if I can take it down. There we go. All right. So I wanted to experiment with that. I didn't do it before the stream. Though, that I am very happy to finally have. We have George Alexopoulos and Razor Fists Goes to the Badlands. And this thing is huge. Like, it's huge, and the artwork is incredible. Like, George's artwork has always been incredible. I'm not going to deny that. Dude's very, very talented. Way more than me. Way, way more than me. And yes, I absolutely am jealous. Um, that kind of brings us around to like one of the big topics. I mean, it makes me ready to start one of the big topics because that was like the only indie comic thing I've gotten this week. And that is the fact that there's a battle going on for the rights. Dragon Ball after the passing of Akira Toriyama. Let's bring up this article that was translated. Share screen. And thanks to Super Chronicles, this was translated and shared around the internet. So, since its serialization began in 1984, Dragon Ball has remained a highly lucrative IP that continues to captivate people. According to the app research company Sensor Tower, the 2 Dragon Ball mobile games, which include Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, and which began its distribution in 2015, have surpassed a worldwide total revenue of 5 billion yen by February 24. The movie Dragon Ball Super Superheroes, released in 2022, achieving a global box office revenue of 13 billion yen. In Saudi Arabia, a theme park of comparable scale to Tokyo Disneyland is also set to be constructed. So they actually are doing like a full-on Dragon Ball land. That's cool. So, in March, the original author, Akira Toriyama, passed away, much to the regret of many. However, the momentum of Dragon Ball shows no signs of slowing down and continues to accelerate worldwide. Regarding its appeal, those involved unanimously agree it's the simplicity. When we analyze why the games became hits in North America, it seemed that the straightforwardness of let's fight to see who is the strongest, which can be enjoyed without much thought, resonated with people, said an insider from Bandai Namco Group. Major uproar due to in-person charge going independent. Last year, there was an incident that caused an uproar in the business over this work. In May of 2023, Akio Ioku, former head of Shueisha's Dragon Ball Room, went independent with several subordinates and established a new company, Capsule Corporation Tokyo, named after a fictional company that appears in the series with the aim of managing creative abilities and handling intellectual property rights. Mr. Ioku became the head of the Dragon Ball Room in 2016 after serving as editor-in-chief of V Jump. So this is where it starts. So a Shueisha insider recalls, without consulting his superiors, Mr. Ioku unilaterally decided to make a film adaptation of Toriyama Sensei's Sandland. He always focused on serving the author, for better or for worse. At the same time, there was criticism from anime production companies and TV networks that he had a condescending attitude. In addition to these evaluations, progress was lacking in collaborations with the metaverse and AI that the higher ups were anticipating. As a result, in 2022, he was reassigned to a new business department. This unwelcome transfer became the trigger, and within a year, Ioku went independent. So it seems like one of the big things was that Shueisha and companies involved really wanted to profit off of new technologies and wanted to get in on that and sort of milk the IP for all it was worth. Which is what companies do, which is part of the reason why American projects run for so long, is because people want to milk them for all they're worth. The unfortunate reality, you know? Where was I? Taking over the role of Toriyama's spokesperson on behalf of Shueisha, Ioku's actions raised the risk of Shueisha losing its Dragon Ball rights. Toriyama Sensei was also dissatisfied with Ioku being removed, as he trusted him the most. Chairman Marue Horiuchi of Shueisha even went directly to Toriyama's residence in Aichi Prefecture, but he couldn't persuade him to stay. And the aforementioned Shueisha insider, or said the aforementioned Shueisha insider, oops. This put Bandai Namco, which had been making a fortune with the games like Dragon Ball, Dokkan Battle, in a difficult position. Ioku, who was Toriyama Sensei's spokesperson, became independent, but the rights to the manga were managed by Shueisha. It was unclear who to consult regarding the matter related to the original work. Meetings about Dragon Ball were organized very vaguely, with all relevant parties being invited, which subtly included both Ioku and Shueisha representatives, making the coordination extremely stressful, said the aforementioned Bandai Namco insider. Toriyama's passing occurred amidst this battle over rights. The discussion continued without the original author, and the disputes have been ongoing and still remain unresolved, noted a Shueisha employee. Some industry executives are looking towards a resolution that involves the family saying that it depends on the family, how the family feels about it. The question remains who will ultimately take the lead in managing the future of the bogged down battle, which is not befitting a shonen manga, remains unclear. So that is basically what it has to say, and my thoughts on it are effectively what I seem to be taking out of this is Toriyama himself was not satisfied with what he was seeing out of Shueisha and their way of handling all of this. And neither was Ioku. And Ioku was a good friend to Toriyama and decided that he was going to try and do something about it. And eventually he butted heads enough with people at Shueisha to where they tried to get him out of the way. And, well, here we are. If he was going about doing things behind their back, that does pose a problem. However, it also does look like the company is more interested in the money than the actual IP and doesn't really care to respect what the author had to say in the matter. So right now, it looks like things could get fucky with that property, which I get. It's kind of a rough issue to try to parse out all at once, because on one hand you have a company who has the IP and they want to make their money off of it because they have been for a while. Dragon Ball is incredibly lucrative. It's incredibly popular. Ooh, and I don't know what to make of all of this because this is just the perspective of one insider. I don't have any solid information. But from this, basically seems like Shueisha wanted to milk it for all it's worth, and Ioku wanted to actually honor Toriyama's wishes. So we'll see where it goes from there. But right now, that is a yikes of a topic, which it's sad to see because I mean, Dragon Ball is what got me into anime in the first place. It is like the number one reason I even started watching. Like I was fresh into college, just started to really become a nerd, and I'm like, hey, what's this Dragon Ball thing that keeps popping up in my feed? Why isn't everyone sharing Dragon Ball stuff? Ironically, it was actually clips of Dragon Ball GT, which is like my least favorite part of Dragon Ball, that I was seeing. It was stuff like Vegeta running people off the road for hitting on Bula. And I got into Dragon Ball Z after, a friend of mine who also had at close to that time gotten into it. And he's like, yeah, this stuff's pretty good. So I was like, all right, I'll check out Dragon Ball Z. It was good. It was entertaining. It was like oh yeah, this stuff kind of slaps. Like this is cool. Like yeah, Kamehameha and shit, and Spirit Bomb, and Gohan versus Cell, and all that kind of stuff. The Boo arc wasn't as good. I found myself kind of like bored with some of the episodes. But yeah, without Akira Toriyama's work, a lot of the anime and stuff that really got me hooked on this side of entertainment wouldn't exist. Naruto wouldn't be a thing. Dragon Ball definitely wouldn't be a thing. There are plenty of games and stuff that were inspired by Toriyama. Overall, tragic loss of an absolute goat in the industry, okay? And now the Greek Empire falls apart without its Alexander. The generals try to divide everything up amongst themselves, and, well, it doesn't last for very long. For now, I will say I'm kind of on Ioku's side for respecting the author's wish, but I do need potentially some more solid information on that, make up my mind fully. But with all that said, there is one other thing that I was planning on talking about tonight, and that is everyone's favorite non-controversial subject. Okay. Representation in media. And there's a couple of reasons I bring this up, and I'll be upfront with them. It has to do with the online transgender community, and they're latching onto of everything that even remotely seems like it would affirm their beliefs. And the Assassin's Creed Shadow situation, which has gotten even more sideways than it was last week. Which, let's be honest here, Assassin's Creed Shadow, shit game. It was bound to be shit either way. This whole thing is way late. This whole thing is just, it's at a bad time with the wrong people making it. And this thing with the Yasuke is only compounding its issues even more. So we'll start here. And one of the things I did kind of want to go over was some terminology and stuff, and we will start here. Present, share screen with this Twitter account and a meme. So basically what I can tell you about this is that a lot of these terms, a lot of what goes on here has to do with cross-dressing. Some of them actually do have to do with transgenderism, like New Half and Okama. But I did a little bit of research on some of these terms that I hadn't heard, and I'll give you basically the rundown. I don't need to explain what cross-dressing is. It's just a dude dressing as a woman, okay? Otokonoko. Otokonoko, I think, right straight up translates to boy daughter, which is used to describe an effeminate male who likes to dress in a feminine style. Basically, they think they look better dressing as a girl than a boy. They do not see themselves as a girl. That is the big thing. They still identify as a man. They are still male. They just dress that way. So it's kind of a form of cross-dressing, but it's less of a just I want to look like a woman and more of a I feel more comfortable dressed as a woman, like I feel better. New half, now you're actually getting into the whole transgenderism thing, but they're the ones who haven't had the reassignment surgery. Do with that information what you will. Okama is two things altogether. It can be two things. One, it can just be really flamboyant gay men. The other, actual transgenders. So you can kind of slot both of those under Okama. And the reason, and you can, the most prevalent example of this would be Bon Clay from One Piece and all of the subjects of Emporio Ivankov. They're all cross-dressing, incredibly flamboyantly gay people. Which nothing against. I didn't have a problem with it watching One Piece. I could have cared less about that stuff. I'm just saying that is generally what it is used to describe. And then, of course, you have gender bender, which is actually a situation where you turn a male character into a female, which is like Ranma and a half falls into gender bender. Gosh, I forget what it is, but either way, there are plenty of anime that do the gender bender thing. So yeah, that is kind of the precursor to what we're getting into. So, oops. If we go down to this article right here, we get into some of the big news for the night. So, anime streamer Crunchyroll has removed the comment section from their anime it streams and also its news articles since July 8th. The change was implemented after comment section for Shonen AI anime Twilight Out of Focus and Senpai is an Otokonoko were apparently review bombed and littered with comments, many accusing Crunchyroll of promoting the works as pro-LGBTQ propaganda. Crunchyroll states that they are removing the comment section to create a safe space and environment and encouraged to use the star system instead. How long is this article? Not very long. So many criticize the decision, saying that it is an unwarranted change. Yeah. So basically, issue has now become that a lot of what was going on is the transgender community latched onto senpais and otokonoko, which, as we have discussed already, otokonoko does not mean trans. It is more akin to cross-dressing than transgenderism. But it became a huge thing with the trans community because they are desperate to find examples of transgenderism in fiction, which there are in manga and anime. We can go back to One Piece. There is literally a character whose whole power is transgenderism. Emporio Ivankov can change himself from male to female at will. And there's even a prevailing fan theory that Sir Crocodile used to be a woman. But I want to make a point of this because this is where it starts to get like out of hand. Basically, what happened, what the theory of what happened with Crunchyroll's comment section is, a lot of people were just correcting, saying Otokonoko does not mean trans. The main character of the series, the senpai, is not actually trans. He is a male that just cross dresses and cosplays as a woman. which, yeah, that's a thing. But the trans community won't have it. They absolutely have to have this as a thing. It needs to be trans for them. So much so that you will get threats like Briskitty here saying that you people are evil liars and Destiny is 100% correct on what should be done to people like you. Which I disagree. I highly disagree, okay? I don't want that going on my record, but let's just be honest. That's what's being said here. It is an absolutely fucked situation. And all of that over a debate whether a character is actually trans or not. Okay? And this is something that happens a lot. And again, we get into Ranma and a half, which is another one that has been hit with a lot of these allegations. One Piece, there are some other ones that just don't fit. Like there's the constant claim that Yamato is trans, which she is not. Oda himself has come out and said that Yamato is a woman and that she never identified as a man. That is a thing. And then you have, again, back to Ranma and a half, which basically the idea of Ranma and a half is that you have a character, a male character, who has a curse that whenever he gets splashed into water, splashed with cold water, he turns into a woman. And if he gets with hot water, he turns back into a guy. There's a bit of a reference to that in a Don with the evil eye. It's kind of funny, actually. But that said, a lot of these things that deal with like gender and stuff like that get latched onto by the trans community because, like I said, they are desperate for something to affirm their beliefs, which is the core issue of all of this, of representation, or of the representation debate. Is people need something to affirm their shallow, surface level sort of beliefs, which is what I find a lot of it, boils down to. And it also boils into like the race representation, the sexuality representation stuff, is people don't actually want to identify with a character based on who that character is. They want to identify with it based on what that character is. And to get a little personal, one of the characters that I probably identify the most with throughout all of fiction, Subaru Natsuki of ReZero. And why is that? Because I've been in the same places mentally that he's been in, like existentially questioning your own existence. Like, what is the point of me being here? Am I even any use to people? It's something that's deeper than just him being, a male character. And that's kind of how a lot of these characters succeed and how it should be. We shouldn't be concerned with the idea of, oh, well, do they have the same skin color as me? Do they sleep with the same people as me? It's one thing to say, to pick a universal trait, like something that someone struggles with, or a character trait like persistence or loyalty, and identify with that. But to attach everything to a superficial trait of a character, something that categorizes them as black or white, straight or gay, trans or not, you're missing the point. And that's why I say it's shallow and almost narcissistic, really. Because then you're making it about seeing yourself in fiction, which is, the line a lot of people will use. I need to see myself in fiction. Okay, there are plenty of things to see yourself through. But if what you want is a perfect reflection of how you look, well, I'm sorry, but that makes you a narcissist, because you don't want a character, you want a mirror. You want to look at the screen and think, oh, wow, I could be that hero, not, oh, wow, this hero inspires me. Which is where a lot of the debate then starts to go awry. Because so many people have attached, and this goes for both sides, by the way. So many people have attached their identity to superficial things like, well, I'm a Republican or something like that, or transgender or whatever. And a lot of people want to make it about just those things. They want their characters to represent just those things, which has led to a lot of, spitefully made programming. The most recent of which that I would point to is The Right's The New Norm show, that god awful Twitter cartoon that came out. It is a spitefully written piece of shit. That is what it is. There's no other way around it. My point is that characters, we should be looking more so at who they are, not what they are. And that is why I have such an issue with the representation debate, with the excuse me for using the term diversity quotas. Because you can have good characters of any race and a lot of people will identify with them. I mean, fucking hell, look at how popular Goku is across the world. We just talked about Goku. And how Dragon Ball is one of the most popular IPs across the world. It is absolutely massive. Nobody's sitting here complaining about the race of the character. Everyone identifies with Goku because he's a straight up man's man. And he will fight you to the death to protect the world, to protect the people he cares about. And those are admirable qualities. Those are things that people can respect. That men, women, straight, gay, white, and black, everyone can respect. And those are the kinds of qualities we should identify with. Nobody gives a shit that Goku is an Asian alien, so to speak. He's a Japanese character who comes from outer space. And I can bring up plenty of characters that people have liked of like other races. So like Static Shock, Cyborg, Jon Stewart. All characters that are really well loved regardless of their race. Hell, Static Shock was one of my favorite shows of the DCAU. It was a good show. And yeah, it touched on some things that like racism and stuff like that. It touched on some of that, maybe in a stereotypical way, even for the time, but it decided that it was going to go at it with a sense of propriety, I guess. It decided it wanted to deal with those things not out of spite, but just to approach the subject matter because it was a real thing. And that brings us all the way around to why the Yasuke stuff can be like is becoming a huge issue. So last week I talked about how, the Yasuke, like the Assassin's Creed stuff could be turning into like a much bigger deal. Well, according to what I've been reading on Twitter of people who are following this situation much more closely than me, and I won't pretend like I am the foremost scholar on this, but so Assassin's Creed Shadows is now a national issue in Japan. Nippon Journal is exposing Thomas Lockley's lies, including his false claim about Yasuke being a samurai. Historians, newspapers, and the Diet are uniting against this distortion of history. It may soon become a government matter. Because ultimately, this is the kind of stuff that ends up happening. This isn't the only time where this sort of historical revisionism has taken place in historical fantasy, like fictional histories. You can find it where they replaced like Viking leaders with black women. Does that make sense? Or they replaced Cleopatra with a black woman, which she was Greek, white. And their whole argument for it is, well, diversity, equity, inclusion. And I don't want to get into like that stuff, but it is rooted in a form of, cultural Marxism and all of that. And it drives people away from some of the more universal truths. Like, again, I go back to one of the characters, like ReZero actually did like change the course of my life, at least mentally. It was something that was very important to me overall. Something that I absolutely needed to find at that time in my life, I guess. Right as I was like questioning why I was even doing anything, like what was the point of my life. And then I find this show that's all about like, your life has value. Like the whole message of it is basically you've been given a life and it has purpose. That's why I identify so much with Subaru Natsuki and why it's one of my favorite anime. It's because Subaru is that guy who's just sitting there trying to make something of himself, to feel like he belongs in the world, to feel like there's something important going on. Motherfucker, what the heck? Sorry, I'm getting text from fucking political pundits and stuff like that. So where was I? Right. Subaru Natsuki. There are things to identify with in characters, but their race, sexuality, gender identity, all that stuff, absolutely not the thing to identify with. Absolutely not the thing that is worth it, because you get into this historical revisionism and people start rewriting things and telling stories that aren't true. And now we're finding out that this guy, Thomas Lockley, has fabricated this story of a black samurai, pretty much. And we're coming to the point where people are straight up not having it. And look, it could turn out that there is some truth to this, but I have not seen any good proof of it yet. Largely everything that I have seen on the subject is people talking about how this is straight up untrue, that it is largely fabricated, and that now it has gone all the way to Nippon University or Nihon University to be investigated. But that's like the great thing about fiction is you can always find a character you identify with regardless of race, regardless of any of the tick boxes you meet. Right? You're more than a checkbox, you're a person. And identifying as just a checkbox is limiting yourself. And again, I return to the narcissism argument because it's true. If what you want to see is yourself, so to speak, like in a mirror, well, go to your bathroom and look in the mirror. Most bathrooms have one. I'm just assuming, okay? If you want to see yourself that way, all you want is a mirror. All you want is affirmation. It's shallow. And there are much deeper things about you that you should probably be looking at. Again, you're more than just a tick box here. You're a person. You're more than just what you are on the surface. And there are values in just about everyone that we can appreciate. Okay? And that is the essence. That is, in effect, what is being human. And it applies to anime. All the way back to the transgender thing. If you're really so concerned about a character being trans, my question is, why does it matter so much to you? Why do you need to be represented in fiction? Why do you need to have a trans character? Why does it have to be a trans character? And if the answer is, well, because trans people exist, okay, why is that important? Why do they automatically need to be included in a story just by nature of them existing? Because if the answer is, well, because there needs to be transgender people for transgender people to identify with, why can't you identify with someone else? Why does it have to be a surface level trait? Again, there's more to it than just what you are on the surface. But moving on from all of that, because I think I kind of summarized my point. You don't need to appropriate other things to make characters look like you or behave like you. Especially behave in shallow ways. You can identify with a motive, with a belief, with an emotion, with a character trait. Those things, yeah, I get it. Okay? They're much more universally human. But when you focus on shallow traits like transgenderism, like race, like sexuality, things that really shouldn't have much bearing on the way we treat people, you're fundamentally limiting yourself as a person to just those things. And when you make it your entire personality to be just that, well, you're a boring person. You're usually an annoying person too. I have, for as long as this channel has been up, I have never cared who the fuck you are. As long as you're not a criminal or guilty of something absolutely awful, like calling for the deaths of other people, like, I don't know, doing horrible things to small children, or committing war crimes, or just beating people senseless on the street, we'll be cool. Okay? I don't care. I don't care if you're gay or whatever. Just be a decent person and I'll be cool with you, okay? But I do want to get to the last thing of the night, which I was hoping my second talking head would show up, but no. It looks like I'll be alone for the rest of the night. I haven't so much as gotten a message, and well, it's okay. It's a fine. It's a fine. We'll do this one last thing and we'll wrap it up. So, why is this again? I need an ad blocker. So, the Acolyte creator Leslie Headland says Disney Star Wars series was tonally inspired by Cowboy Bebop. Which, if that was your intention, you fucking missed it. So, according to showrunner Leslie Headland, the emotionally jarring tone of the Acolyte's narrative, there's nothing emotionally jarring about it. Evil people do evil shit, and they try to make the Jedi bad guys, but only prove that they were right. That is effectively what happens in the Acolyte. Soul did nothing wrong, and they kill him. And because of that, The emotionally jarring tone of the Acolyte's narrative was directly inspired by the likewise representation of Spike Spiegel's story in the classic anime series Cowboy Bebop. Hedlund offered this insight into the widely panned Star Wars series production during a post-series finale interview with Collider's Maggie Lovett. In reference to her past pair of admissions, as made during her previous The Acolyte-centric interviews with Lovett, that the visual depictions of the Space Witch Coven's magic usage was inspired by the main monster of the film Crimson Peak, and that the relationship between Khmer and Osha was a direct riff off of the one shared by Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragons, Lo Jai Hu, and Jen Lu. Lovett pressed the showrunner as to whether the series had any other visual or story influences. Yes, affirmed Hedlund in turn. Shinichiro Watanabe. He is the creator of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo, she explained. Those were big references, not visually but tonally, especially Cowboy Bebop, bounced back and forth between Spike's backstory, which is incredibly tragic and heartwarming, and then his fun buoyancy when they do the episodic episodes. Isn't that a redundancy? Episodic episodes. Sorry if my mic was low there. He feels like a Han Solo coded character. So totally those were references. Turning her attention to another influence. Okay. I do want to talk about this because I've seen a lot of The Acolyte. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And the difference between The Acolyte and Cowboy Bebop is that Cowboy Bebop's actually well written. And it does the sort of like constant shenanigans sort of thing very well in comparison. The Acolyte comes off as dumb and cheesy because, well, Star Wars was never really that. It was never really similar to Cowboy Bebop in that way, where it could bounce between sort of the serious backgrounds of the character and some of the goofy shit they get up to. See, in Cowboy Bebop, they were all painted as, misadventures of some broke people trying to earn some money. The Acolyte, oh God. There's nothing fun about The Acolyte. And that is where this really, really, falls apart. Is you can say that you were inspired by Cowboy Bebop, that you were looking to imitate some of the fun of the series. But you absolutely, utterly failed. I will just say that. You did. Because I would not have ever guessed the inspiration of Cowboy Bebop from this unless you said it directly to my face. Just saying. And here we are. You have to say it directly to my face in order for me to get it. That means you failed. That means you messed up and you've done a bad job. Okay? If your goal was to imitate Spike's backstory with Soul, you failed. Because Spike dies fighting the guy who, kills someone. He kills the person he loves. But Soul dies basically because someone's upset that their mother was a fucking idiot and decided to get everyone killed. The witches escalated all of that shit, and the Jedi were perfectly in the right to react the way they did. I'm desperately trying to find some similarities between the Acolyte and this, but I can't. Sorry, I should say the Cowboy Bebop and the Acolyte, but I can't. Other than they're both in space, and that and Soul and Spike both die in their final battle because they've got nothing left to lose. But that said, I think I've said enough for tonight. Kind of a short one, but that's okay because I've covered everything I wanted to cover. I don't really have anything else to say. I don't really have anything else to add. I feel like we have gotten through this, and my internet could very well cut out at any time. It's been doing that all day. It's been a pain in my ass, okay? And thank you to everyone who tunes in, even now and afterwards, on forever. I appreciate everyone giving this a chance. My name is Crimson Law, and you can find me on my main channel at Crimson Law. This is my live channel where I do all my live streams. You can also find me on Twitter at Isaac Hendren. Otherwise, just stick around. I'll be back next week, just about every week, to talk anime, news, related topics, that kind of stuff. No politics, though, none of that stuff. And I try to stay away from things I did tonight, like representation and all that. But it's been the big thing in anime, the Otokonoko stuff and all that. So I figured I'd cover it because it's interesting to watch all of this go down. Regardless, though, I've had a great time, and I am going to be signing off now. So I hope you have a good night.
My problem is that you're a real asshole.
People tell me that a lot. I would say that it's one of my strong points.